Good evening from New York City. I'm Pete Hegseth in tonight for Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle. Don't worry, Laura's going to be back on Monday for sure. It's a big news night, and we've got you covered from coast to coast. President Trump today making a bold move against Russia. But will the left ever give him credit? We're going to have a debate about that. Plus, Michelle Obama took a cheap shot at President Trump last night. Is she plotting her own White House run? We'll analyze that situation as well. And the Department of Justice is still accused of slow-walking documents related to the Hillary Clinton email case to Congress. What do they have to hide? A member of the House Judiciary Committee will be here to explain. But first, Democrats plotting to defy our commander-in-chief. President Trump sending up to 4,000 National Guard troops to the border. That's about a brigade size. But some Democratic governors say they'll refuse to allow troops from their states to partake in the plan. Fox News correspondent Jillian Turner is here with more. Good evening, Jillian.
Hey, Pete. So in the wake of President Trump's decision to dispatch National Guard troops to secure the southern border, the Pentagon's now announced they're creating a special border security cell of their own. The cell's official mission? Backing up Border Patrol agents, according to the Secretary of Defense.
We're looking at how we can best provide the support to the Department of Homeland Security, and we'll figure it out. It'll be consistent with law and the spirit of Congress, no problem.
But don't let that mission statement fool you. The new cell's got a crucial role to play. It'll serve as a liaison between the Pentagon and the Department of Homeland Security, making sure they're synced 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Watching monitors, border cameras and sensor feeds, those kinds of things. They'll be helping us in sort of the backroom activities. We've used them previously to help repair roads and vehicles. We've used them to do intelligence and analysis for intelligence. And then aviation is a big part of what we hope they bring.
And perhaps even more importantly, the cell will conduct reconnaissance on the ground and in the air. But with the now new order signed for 4,000 National Guardsmen at the border, things are getting a little sticky at the state level. Some U.S. governors are supporting the move. Arizona's governor tweeted this afternoon he'll be sending around 150 Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, and the state of Texas stepping in also. They've committed already to deploying 250 troops, all within the next 72 hours. And Governor Abbott released a statement saying the plan, quote, reinforces Texas's long-standing commitment to secure our southern border and the rule of law. Arkansas and Mississippi also lent their support to the plan, but other governors, like Kate Brown of Oregon, haven't been as supportive.
There's been absolutely no planning. There's been absolutely no collaboration with the states. This is just something that the president reeled off to distract from the problems that he's having in Washington, D.C.
In polarized times like these, Pete, when it seems likely we're careening towards a total political breakdown, I console myself with the words of Abraham Lincoln, who said, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it'll probably be because we destroyed ourselves.
Important
Pete?
Reminder, and you mentioned it's Oregon, Montana, potentially Nevada have indicated they don't want to participate. Any other sense that other Democratic governors will join this new form of resistance and say, we're not sending troops down to the border wall?
Yeah, it's possible. For example, California, surprisingly, seems to have remained teetering on the edge. They've not necessarily registered their discontent with the plan. So if they went in President Trump's direction, I think it is possible we'd see some other Democratic governors do the same.
Very interesting. Because if you go along with the Trump administration and you're a Democratic governor, you are now complicit, as some in the grassroots would see it. Jillian, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. Well, joining me now for reaction is Dan Crenshaw. He's a Republican running for Congress in a border district in Texas, 2nd District. He's also a decorated former Navy SEAL. We also have Alan Orr, an immigration attorney, here to debate. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. So, Commander, I'll start with you. We've got a situation here where the president sees an imminent national security threat based on the status of what's happening on our border. Congress will not deliver on a border wall and the funding that he wants. So he says, we're sending the troops. Now, we know there are limitations in what they can do at the border, but is this an important step, and will it help stem the tide?
It absolutely is, and he's making good on his promise to the American people. That's what he ran on. He ran on a border wall, and it looks like that border wall, for now, temporarily, will have to be enforced by National Guard. And we have a long history of this in Texas, and frankly, we've been footing the bill. We're on the front lines. We realize this is a national security issue, and we spend our own money to actually put Department of Public Safety troops on the ground to help assist law enforcement. We also put National Guardsmen on the ground regularly to help with counter-drug operations. This is nothing new to us. It's important to us. And frankly, it's time for the federal government to help out.
Alan, so Dan Crenshaw just mentioned the Department of Public Safety in Texas. Based on their statistic from 2011 to 2012, over 245,000 criminal illegals have been arrested in Texas alone. Over 1,000 homicides, 77,000 arrests, assault arrests, 78,000 drug arrests, 7,000 sexual assault arrests. These are illegal aliens in Texas alone arrests between 2011 and 2018. Yet, based on some of the commentary I've seen you say, there isn't a crisis at our border. Would you not acknowledge that we do not, at the federal level, have our hands around the border, and now's the time to address it?
Well, I think there are ways to address the issue of the immigration crisis, and actually the border wall and actually an individual wall and a human wall is not the way to best address the issue. And to best sort of show that this is a man-made crisis is why now? It's been 12 months into this administration, and now all of a sudden after this last fall of Congress, which there was sort of a DACA deal for a wall that he sort of ran away from, that we now want to deploy people to the troops. And it sounds like to me that Texas has it under control for the state of Texas, and that's really what the concern is right now. A little bit about federalism and what the National Guard is in place to do. So if states have the drive to put these individuals in place to do what they do at the national level, then why should the federal government sort of step in
but
and
Ellen,
say, this
why
is what
not
you need
now?
to do?
Is immigration not a federal issue? I mean, Texas may have stepped up to do its part, but ultimately, this is something that affects all of us and what the federal government should be doing. You say, why now? I ask, why not now if we haven't stemmed the tide and Congress hasn't delivered?
Right, because there's no way to put humans in the way of the danger of standing at the border, one for the National Guard officers, because when you think about National Guard officers, they're part of communities. They're firemen and police officers and teachers that are part of communities that keep them striving, keep them safe. So you're removing people from communities and putting them at the border for a threat that doesn't exist. For what reason, right?
Well,
there's no number, there's no caravan. So sort of show me the statistics of why now 400,000 needed.
The threat that doesn't exist. Dan, I'll go to you as well. I rattled off those statistics.
Yeah.
245,000 criminal illegals since 2011 to 2018 arrested in Texas alone. We're talking homicides, assaults, drugs, sexual assault, over 10,000 for weapons. He says, Alan says, no threat here. Humans can't do it. If not humans and not a wall, how do we ever get our hands around this? And is it not a national security issue? We've got an invasion problem here.
It's a national policy issue. That's how
he did say one thing that was absolutely correct, which is that we waited too long. We should have done this before. We should have done this a long time ago. And frankly, it has been done before. The left is losing their minds about this, but it was done by Obama in 2010 and by Bush in 2006. So he's right that we have waited too long. He's also right that it's a dangerous border. And so you can't simultaneously say that the threat doesn't exist while also saying it's a dangerous border and too dangerous for our National Guard. What our National Guard is going to be doing down there is be the eyes and ears for our law enforcement. That is the role they're going to play, and it's a very useful role, and it's a role we need in Texas. Now, the Department of Public Safety here in Texas knows very well that we don't have the manpower to man every single inch of this border. So this is extremely helpful, and we welcome the help. And it is a federal issue. This is an international border. To say that the states have the resources to do it is wrong. It's not true. And Texans are on the front lines, and we're tired of footing the bill.
Alan, as Dan has said, I mean, if you don't have people there, then you've got to have a wall. Now, if you don't want to send the people there, Alan, if you don't believe that the National Guard serves a proper function there, which could be a legitimate argument if that's your true concern, wouldn't you then say, well, now it's time for a border wall? We have to do something.
Actually, absolutely, you would have to do something. And some of the ways to sort of stem this problem without spending the wasted money is to sort of look at technology. Because if people are really just there to sort of look and observe, that's something we do with iPhones. That's something we do with cameras. That's something that we can do with tripwires. There's no need to have a human person there to sort of look and see what's going on. So that argument sort of falls weak there. And sort of the concerns of what could happen, the danger at the border, is that someone could misfire.
iPhones and tripwires are not a wall, are not a beautiful 30-foot border wall that is an actual obstacle that interdicts people trying to come across your border. It's very
Right.
different.
So the National Guard, if you're understanding the rules of what the National Guard can do at a port of entry, and with regards and sort of if you sort of hear the plan that it doesn't exist, as the governor of Oregon sort of said, that these individuals are not allowed to detain people or be involved as regular police officers. So therefore, they're only there to sort of be in the background, which he said specifically to watch and observe.
We need them to be the eyes and the ears for law enforcement.
Dan, you've been a Navy SEAL. You understand that an obstacle without oversight is not effective. So if you've got eyes and ears on an obstacle, you've got both layers necessary.
And it isn't wrong that we also need electronic surveillance to bolster this effort. I mean, it's a combination of both, okay, with any operation. And to say that this operation wasn't planned or there's no planning, there's no talk about it, of course there is. Okay, this is a very simple military operation. We want to stop people from crossing a border. So, all right, so you need electronic surveillance, you need people on the ground, and then you need law enforcement in conjunction with that in order to be able to arrest and detain.
Well, the defense secretary basically just said in your own skit that they were coming up with a plan that would be enforcement that would sort of comply with law. So therefore, there can't be a plan, because if there was a plan, then we'd already have seen that. So these are just a couple of days of action.
Of course, the Pentagon's going to present a plan for this, and these things can. At least we can all agree that we need a border wall, right, Dan?
No, we don't need a border wall. Absolutely,
we can agree on that.
I appreciate your time.
And this is a temporary solution until
temporary solution, because Congress cannot get out of their own way. Appreciate both of your time this evening.
Right, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
You got it. We need more Navy SEALs in Congress. I can go for that. Well, the 2018 midterms are just 7 months away. We can fully expect Republicans to campaign on protecting the border and keeping Americans safe from illegal aliens. As for the Democrats, well, several Democratic candidates are actually calling for the abolition of ICE. Don't believe me? Well, Randy Bryce, who's challenging House Speaker Paul Ryan in Wisconsin's 1st District, recently just told the truth and told Newsweek, quote, "I think that ICE should be abolished, and Congress should explore which existing agency could best house immigration and customs enforcement," end quote. Well, joining me now for reaction is David Ward, a former ICE agent who also worked on the border. David, thank you for your time. So Democrats are clinging to the idea that getting rid of ICE is going to get rid of this problem for us. What do you say to that?
You know, we live in a great country where people as vacuous as Bryce can run for a congressional seat and make a statement like he did to abolish ICE. I mean, who does he expect to work in the interior of the United States to go after criminal aliens that have eluded other police departments? Now, one thing about
maybe nobody. I mean, is this not indicative of a viewpoint that says we want a borderless world? Law and order does not matter to us.
But the Democrats will not be happy until immigration is completely abolished. There's no border patrol, there's no border, there's no wall, there's no ICE, there's no nothing, and people come and go as they wish in the United States. Let me tell you something about this, Mr. Bryce, if you're listening. You know, ICE agents arrested over 38,000 criminal aliens. You made a statement that we're out there arresting children and families and stuff. Let me tell you something. ICE is going out specifically for particular targets that are criminal aliens, that have warrants for arrest, that are fugitives from justice, that came to the United States after a reentry, after deportation. That's who's being targeted, and over 38,000 have been arrested. Did you also know that over 2,200 pounds of fentanyl have been seized by ICE?
Yeah, I mean, it's the drug problem, the gang problem, the violence problem, all very, very real. But it's not just this one congressional candidate. In Wisconsin, you've got a congressional candidate in Indiana. You've got one in New York. I mean, this seems to be in the bloodstream of the Democratic Party.
It's the progressive talking points that are doing this. They don't want immigration enforcement. They want this entire country to be a sanctuary for the world's problems. We can't do it. Our citizens are in danger. Look at what happened on 9/11. It was immigrants that did that. They brought down the towers, and since then, illegal aliens and foreign nationals have been killing U.S. citizens since that time, even before then, of course.
And we talk a lot about the border, and rightfully so, because that's where so much of our problem emanates from. But as far as ICE is concerned, these are visa overstays as well. These are a lot of people that come here legally and that decide not to go back. And ultimately, without
that's 50% of your illegal alien population are people who violate our visas that come into the United States. The visa waiver program is another big problem that we should take a real close look at and abolish that. Immigration is the Achilles heel of this country. If we don't control it, if we don't control our borders, don't go after the illegal aliens that are within this country, we're going to have a real serious problem within a very short period of time.
So they say, well, ICE has only been around for 15 years. It's a short-term agency. I mean, this is the talking points of the left are abolish it because it's something new. Explain to our audience
something about
the history there.
Okay, since 1933, immigration has been in effect. We've had special agents from 1933 to 2003 enforcing immigration law. The Department of Homeland Security was created because of 9/11 through the 9/11 Commission, and ICE became immigration special agents. That's the only difference was the name. They all go through the same school. They all enforce Title VIII. And I'd like to know who this guy thinks is going to enforce Title VIII. All of our agents go through an academy to learn how to enforce it.
Well, of course. I mean, I guess he's counting on self-deportation, ultimately. I mean, really, I mean, they mock the idea until their entire premise is built on it. But you say,
Absolutely.
I mean, deliberate operation and focused targets is what ICE is about. And the boogeyman is they make it look like they're running around rounding people up.
Look, we only have 20,000 at most ICE agents throughout the entire United States. That's half the size of the New York City Police Department. But we have 11 million people that we might be looking for. It's a small number, so we have to concentrate on the most effective use of our manpower, and that's going after the criminal aliens that are causing harm in these neighborhoods. Makes
sense. David, thank you for your time and for your service to this country. We appreciate it. Well, a state that has over 2 million illegal immigrants is California, and it's voiced its opposition to this administration more than any other state. While our next guest goes even a step further, he wants California to secede from the Union, from the United States. Marcus Ruiz-Evans is the president of Yes California, a group advocating for the Golden State's independence from America. Marcus, thanks for joining us. So, hey, a casual viewer tonight's going to say, that sounds pretty radical. I may not like those sanctuary states. I don't like the fact that they're telling me coffee is bad for me. I can't stand the regulations and the social justice out there. But seceding, does that make sense? Do we have you? Marcus, you got me? We may have lost Marcus. We're going to try to get him. He was on Skype. It was a tough connection, but an interesting idea for those in California that are fed up with the fact that the federal government it seems to be ignored by officials there who prefer to live in sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, with some municipalities fighting back. An interesting idea for a Calexit. We're going to try to get Marcus back. All right, you got it. Well, moving on, the Justice Department yet again missed a deadline to hand over documents to Congress about the Hillary Clinton email case. We'll tell you what that's all. Welcome back. Well, even with Trump in the White House, there's no love lost between the Justice Department and the House Judiciary Committee. Our own Ed Henry is here to tell us all about the latest controversy. Ed.
Pete, pressure is building on the Attorney General Jeff Sessions because the Justice Department failed to meet a deadline to give the House Judiciary Panel 1.2 million documents related to 3 big cases involving the FBI and DOJ, the Hillary Clinton email probe, FISA abuse in terms of spying on the Trump campaign, and details of the FBI's internal recommendation to fire their number 2, Andrew McCabe. Frustration continues to build about Sessions among some of the president's supporters because, remember, this subpoena came in to his department from a fellow Republican, the House Judiciary Chairman Bob Goodlatte, who wants a second special counsel to probe all of these matters. Goodlatte said he was left with no choice but to issue that March 22nd subpoena because he had gotten only a fraction of the Clinton email probe documents he had requested and basically nothing, completely shut out on potential FISA abuses. So Goodlatte wrote to the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, quote, "Given the department's ongoing delays in producing these documents, I am left with no choice but to issue the enclosed subpoena to compel production of these documents." Now, in his defense, the FBI Director Christopher Wray has said he has more than 24 FBI staffers trying to help the Justice Department provide these documents on what he calls a rolling basis, about every 10 days to 2 weeks. But other House Republicans like Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan are raising questions about whether the FBI and the Justice Department are really serious about cooperating, noting this exchange that they've uncovered between FBI employees about what gets redacted before the records are even sent to Capitol Hill. One FBI employee says in this exchange, quote, "Are you sure you want me to keep you redacted for the congressional production?" The second FBI employee responds, "Is that an option?" The first one adds with a smiley face emoji, quote, "You will be redacted." That kind of slow walking might help explain why Kim Strassel today wrote in the Wall Street Journal that House Intel Chairman Devin Nunes issued a subpoena way back in August 2017 for Justice and the FBI to turn over documents that might show how central that anti-Trump dossier was to the Trump-Russia collusion investigation, how it all started. Guess what? Nunes, months later, is still waiting. Pete?
Ed, thanks a lot there. Let's now bring in a member of the House Judiciary Committee, Ron DeSantis. He's a Republican from Florida who joins us from Naples tonight. He's also run for governor in the fine state of Florida. Representative, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. So I know that your chairman, Goodlatte, is not satisfied with the speed or volume of what DOJ has produced. As a member of that committee tonight, where are we on their ability to produce documents that you need to see?
Well, they're dragging their feet, and they've been doing this for a long time, not only with the Judiciary Committee, but as Ed mentioned, with Devin Nunes on the Intel Committee. And here's the thing, Pete, if you were the subject of a Justice Department civil enforcement action and they were subpoenaing documents from you, you would not be able to get away with these excuses if you were a private business. You'd have to produce the stuff. And so it doesn't work that the government has a different set of rules. So I think the question is are we going to actually put the might of our institution behind these subpoenas and enforce them? Because you remember when the IRS was dragging its feet, I mean, we held Lois Lerner in contempt, didn't follow through with that. Guys like me tried to impeach the IRS commissioner for stonewalling on the targeting investigation, John Koskinen. It didn't get through Congress. And so we have certain tools at our disposal. We can use the power of the purse. We can hold officials in contempt. And ultimately, if they're still recalcitrant, we can impeach these civil officers. We have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, I think they're just going to try to run out the clock on a lot of this stuff.
So you've got civil officers, but Representative, you've also got, representatives, political appointees in these departments appointed by President Trump. I actually had the opportunity about an hour ago to speak to a senior DOJ official involved in these matters, and they pointed out a couple of things. They said this is the first week since they've doubled the amount of agents, so they are trying to put the pedal to the metal on producing documents. They also noted that another 1,000 pages will be delivered for your committee by Monday, and that they just sent a letter to Devin Nunes saying that they're going to accommodate his request for other members outside the committee to review the FISA applications. So if more people can see those FISA applications and more documents are being produced, do you feel like you could get to a place where DOJ is acting in good faith? They just haven't had the resources to do it.
Here's why I'm skeptical of that. I hope that that's right, and I hope that we, the American people, get what they are entitled to. But remember what Nunes has been trying to get. He's been trying to get those initial documents about how this whole Russia collusion with Trump's campaign narrative started from the FBI. And they won't give that to him. That's not 1 million documents. I mean, that's something, there's probably one piece of paper that officially opened this investigation. He's been asking for that for months, and they will not produce it. So I hope they're turning over a new leaf, but I just got to say, the last 6 to 8 months has been one of continually frustrating Congress's prerogative to get these answers for the American people.
To that point, take us under the hood a little bit, because it seems like we hear at the last minute from DOJ, we're not going to meet the deadline, right? Right, that day, that moment. Are you at least hearing days, weeks before, hey guys, this is not a deadline we're going to meet. We're working as hard as we can. We want to produce these documents. We're doing so. Is that communication happening, or is it truly mostly quiet, and then you find out, not going to happen yet, we need more time?
I think it's mostly quiet. I mean, I think that there are instances where, say, a Nunes is engaged with Rosenstein or Wray, a Goodlatte can do that. But also it's important to point out, I mean, Sessions may be wanting to do the right thing. Some of these guys may be. The people who are actually on the ground there are part of the permanent bureaucracy. And they talked about that kind of cute exchange where they're like, oh, we're just going to redact this, almost joking about it. And that type of attitude, I think, makes it very difficult to get this stuff done in a timely fashion.
So your concern is not the rank and file necessarily at the FBI or DOJ, or maybe not, the Attorney General or Wray or others who may be trying to. It's that middle layer that has the ability to slow walk it or to throw a wrench in the gears and stop the process. I mean, is this a deep state accusation, or is this a bureaucrat, or do you think there's something they're really hiding?
Well, I just think at the end of the day, bureaucracies tend to protect themselves. That's just the instinct of it. You have a lot of people there who are dealing with this. They were not appointed by Donald Trump. I mean, they're kind of career folks. And so I think that's the instinct, to protect the agency, to withhold and not produce as much. And I'm not even saying it's for a nefarious reason, but I think that's the instinct that we see time and time again. And so, we've uncovered so much already with so many questions. And I just think this posture that they've taken doesn't suit the interests of the American people at all. We need a full accounting of how all of this stuff happened.
Absolutely. Part of that full accounting is what the Inspector General is doing at DOJ. Any updates yet on when we might get a report on Michael Horowitz, his investigation, which a lot of people think is going to expose a great deal of things behind the scenes?
Well, he started in January 2017. We thought by the end of the year. That didn't happen. Then we said, oh, February. That didn't happen. Then we said March. No. Now April. So I don't know. I think we need to get it because here's why I think it's important. I think there will be some interesting stuff in there, important stuff. But I think the fate of people like Peter Strzok, the notoriously anti-Trump agent that talked about preventing Donald Trump from being elected with an insurance policy, Lisa Page, his lover, I think their fates are tied to that IG report, and I don't think that the FBI or Justice is going to move to fire them until that report comes in because they want that to be the justification. So a lot of my constituents say, why are these people still there?
Sure.
I'd like to see them moved out, too. But I think once that report hits, I think that could probably be the factor that leads for them to be terminated.
It'll be a very interesting moment indeed. Congressman Ron DeSantis, thanks for your time this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now we're going to circle back to our previous segment. Hopefully you stuck with us about whether California should secede from the union. Rejoining us now via Skype, we hope the connection is solid, is Marcus Ruiz Evans, the president of Yes California, a group advocating for the Golden State's independence from America. I'll posit the same question to you that I did last time, Marcus. So unhappy with sanctuary state, unhappy with standard of living, unhappy with even telling us that coffee is bad for us. Whatever your grievance is, a lot of people, especially conservatives, independents, frustrated with the status of California. Is the option at this point to say, we want out?
Yeah, I think it is for Californians and for Americans. Reuters did a poll in January 2017, and it showed 47.5% of Californians were, quote, not opposed to having a discussion about secession. 32% were for it, but a larger percent said, let's do it. Let's talk about this. And then when you look at Rasmussen, did a poll in February 2017, 41% of Republicans said, go ahead and take off, won't bother us in the slightest. 32% of Americans said, again, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So those polls were taken before the sanctuary battle. They were taken before Sessions flew to California and said, you can't secede. Before all of this hoopla, we have almost half of Californians open to the idea of talking about secession, 41% of Republicans who control the federal government this time, and 1/3 of Americans in general saying, I'm open to this. And that's before the difficulties we've been in now.
Marcus,
if we did that poll again.
Is this a reflection that you believe America and California have irreconcilable differences? That ultimately the priorities are so different that a divorce is necessary at this point?
Yes. I mean, obviously, whenever you talk to anybody, they're going to say it's very clear that California and America are in a war, a battle. There's this constant legislative battling with each other. I agree with Jeff Sessions on this one point. Very specifically, this is not a stable way to govern. Constant battling, lawsuits, challenges in court, the inability to actually execute policies, saying anything you do, I'm going to do the opposite. That is highly unstable for any government.
You can't run a United States of America, a republic, when an entire state is flaunting federal law and saying we're not going to follow it. At some point, that all breaks down. Now, I understand the argument that you're making. What is the path to something like this, briefly, the path to something like this actually happening?
Well, it's very simple. A lot of people think that Calex is crazy simply because they don't know the laws. Here in California, we can file an initiative on a wide variety of things. In fact, we filed initiatives saying we want to put a vote in front of Californians to ask if they want to leave America a couple times. It's been approved by multiple California attorneys general. So we can have Californians take a vote and say, do a majority want to leave America? The next thing is you have to go to Congress and ask for permission to leave. A lot of people think you can't secede. That is ignorance. Texas versus White is a Supreme Court case after the Civil War, that said if you get consent of the states, you can leave. And finally, we think that America will let us go. I mean, watch Fox News. Watch TV. See how conservatives are talking about it.
At the same time, it's the sixth largest economy in the world as well. And while there might be massive differences, that would be one heck of a ballot showdown. I know there's likely a ballot showdown in 2020 as well about California being a sanctuary state. This would take it to a whole nother level. Marcus Ruiz Evans making the case for Calexit. We will follow how America and our relationship with California continues. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
You got it. Well, President Trump not backing down when it comes to China. We'll tell you how he's... Well, the United States and China are each threatening to issue multi-billion-dollar tariffs on one another, sparking some fears of a trade war and causing the Dow Jones Industrial Average to finish down over 500 points today. But President Trump's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, says it's all part of a plan to make things better for Americans.
This is being done in the name of growing the American economy at a much faster rate than in previous decades. It's part of the whole package of lower taxation and regulations. Trade world, you got to play by the rules. And if you change this, if China comes on board and joins the rest of the world, right? If they do that, everyone will benefit.
Joining us now for reaction to that and the entire debate is Gordon Chang, an expert on China and author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, and Tori Whitting, a trade economist at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Tori, you join us from Washington. Gordon, thanks for being here in studio. Appreciate your time. I'll start with you, Gordon. They're making the argument that you can't have free trade while China benefits from unfair trade practices. And if you don't take this moment for the showdown, it's not going to work. Are they taking the right stance in the Trump administration right now?
I think they absolutely are, because we now do have, as you point out, Pete, a trade outlaw at the center of global commerce. They've been gaming the system, and they actually are threatening the entire World Trade Organization global architecture. Problem is, you know, the Chinese have been stealing intellectual property from the United States somewhere between $225 to $600 billion a year. They're leaving the Trump administration no choice. Yes, no one likes tariffs. No one likes trade friction. No one likes industrial policy. But in an innovation economy, if you can't protect innovation, we don't have an economy.
Absolutely. Tori, you know, if state-run companies are benefiting from intellectual theft and selective tariffs that they apply, and at the World Trade Organization, China's considered a developing nation and as a result gets preferential treatment, how is America supposed to play on a level playing field?
Well, listen, I honestly do not think that tariffs are the right way to go. You know, Gordon makes an interesting point there that, you know, the Trump administration or that China is the one that's possibly going to be ruining the world trade system. The United States is going against the World Trade Organization and doing unilateral measures instead of using the international organizations that we have in place to enforce the rules. And there is history that actually backs this up. In every case that has been litigated between the United States and China at the WTO, the United States has won. And in 9 of those 10 cases, China has actually changed its behavior, and USTR has validated the fact that China has changed its behavior.
So Gordon's here shaking his head. Is that true? And should we appeal to the WTO?
Yeah, well, the facts are true, but the story is, if we have this perfect record at the WTO against China, and China's becoming more mercantilist, which they certainly have been for the last 7 or 8 years, the WTO is not the answer. The real problem here, Pete, is that the dispute resolution mechanism at the WTO actually encourages trade violations because there is no penalty until there's an adverse decision. And what China has done is it's done violative acts or procedures or policies, and they wait 5 or 6 years or whatever, and then when there's an adverse decision against them, they take it off, but then they start something else which is equally violative, and they've been gaming the system. It doesn't work.
Gordon, but I'm being told that if President Trump takes these actions, massive industries in the Midwest and elsewhere are going to be undercut. This trade war is going to hurt America.